Hi, I'm Graham Carman, President and CEO of Tinka Resources. Tinka is a TSXV listed explorer developer with a zinc-tin-silver project down in Peru. It's an exciting project. We've been working on this discovery for a number of years, and we're looking to get Ayawilca into production in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Graham, good to see you. I think Merlin last spoke to you in November 2021, would you believe? How time flies. Now, you're in the US at the moment, aren't you?
I am indeed, in Washington, D.C. Matt.
What's happening?
Oh, it's nice and warm, I can tell you that. I'm at the Energy Transition Minerals Summit, I think they refer to it as. It's the first of its kind. There's a really exciting bunch of new investors I haven't met down here before. So it's exciting times. A lot of copper, a lot of lithium, and a couple of zinc stories being told. So exciting times.
Fantastic. And look, I want to kind of get into the recent release of a new sort of PEA from you. The numbers look interesting to me. But before we do that, can we just kind of get a bit of a backdrop? Like, can you explain to people who you are, what your background is, what you've done before?
I'm a geologist. I've been around the traps a fair bit. I've worked for majors, mid-sized companies, juniors. Kiwi by birth. I spent a lot of my time down in Peru, on and off for 30 years. Been involved with some discoveries with Rio Tinto and Pasminco before Tinka. I've been working on Ayawilca now for 8 or 9 years. It's a fantastic deposit. Still a lot of potential. I have an office based down in Lima. I spend a lot of time in Peru. We got an office in Vancouver where we're listed on the TSXV. And I live in Sydney, so I do a lot of traveling.
Yeah, you must do. Talk to me about Peru, though. Peru's been through a few ups and downs politically in terms of the last couple of cycles. What can you tell us now about doing business in Peru? We
were very concerned a couple of years ago. Things have improved markedly in the last couple of years with the new president. When Castillo was elected, there were strikes and all sorts of problems. Thankfully, those days are long gone. The mines are producing again. There's activity, economic activity. The tourists are back. Things are going very smoothly in Peru. At our project, which is important because each project is different wherever you are. Our project's in central Peru. We're a long way away from the hotspots, if you like, of the borders, and we're in a part of Peru that's a traditional mining part of the country. Central Peru, Cerro Pasco, and a bunch of those mines through there have been mined there for hundreds of years. So people know what mining is like and the benefits that it brings. I think it's a great place to visit, a great place to eat ceviche and good seafood. And if you're lucky enough to go and visit a mine, there's a lot of elephants in Peru that just knock your socks off.
That's a thing. So I'm going to get distracted here. Okay, we'll come back to that. Peru, and that kind of tallies what we're hearing from other explorers and developers in country. Right, we've got to talk about zinc. Okay, zinc again has been loved, unloved, and will be loved again. What is the market doing at the moment? What are the kind of key drivers for zinc? Who are the key drivers for zinc?
Well, zinc is a commodity that's essential for our modern world. It's used as galvanization for steel. There's no replacement for that. There's a lot of zinc that goes into wind turbines and so on and so forth. But the key driver is really the supply side. The demand is gradually increasing and will continue to increase. But it's the supply side where we're going to be heading towards a gap. Now, that is because there's been no or very few new mines coming on stream. There's been very limited exploration for zinc over the years, and a lot of the old zinc mines are dropping in grade or having their reserves depleted in a significant way. So if you look at any of those big players, the Tex and the South 32s, the Glencores, that they all project a gap coming up. South 32 reckons it'll be in 3 or 4 or 5 years, something in that kind of space, and that's because of mines shutting down or whatever, reserves running out, and that's where our project we believe will benefit because we expect that Ayawilca would come on stream, say 4 or 5 years time. still a ways away. We've got a couple of things to do before we get to that phase, but it's one of the largest undeveloped resources in the world for zinc. Certainly one of the largest, or the largest greenfields discovery in Peru, which is the second largest producer of zinc in the planet in the last 30 or 40 years. So Ayawilca will be a mine, just a question of when.
Right, and obviously zinc prices kind of went on a bit of a run in 2022 and come off a lot since then. What's going to kind of calm the pricing for zinc down? You talk about lack of supply coming through and big demand, but we when we're looking at this thing, we're seeing a slightly erratic nature and hard to predict nature to this. Does it normalize in some way, going into the future?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it has to normalize. The price has to go up. Well, I mean, it has gone up 20% in the last 6 weeks, but it is coming off a zinc price of $1.10 or $1.15 a pound or whatever it was. The majority of the zinc producers are struggling and not making money at that price. So it's not a long-term sustainable price. And China also has been the main player in zinc, right? But even their resources are starting to diminish. So, look, it's a good question. I think zinc is going to have a re-rating and is going to become like copper will be. Everyone's talking about copper. Well, zinc is in the same space for similar reasons, and that is that there's a demand and there's not going to be the supply. So it's just a question of time. There is going to be a re-rating. It's just a question of when.
Right, and so incentive. What do you reckon incentive prices are for producers? What's going to help them certainly in terms of the economics? If you off to raise money and not raise capex, and I'm sure that's where you're heading at some point. You want to see that kind of margin. Either you're producing lowest quartile, in which case maybe you don't care so much what the price is, but our average zinc mines out there, what do they need?
Well, I think the average zinc mine needs $1.30, $1.40 cents a pound. I mean, South 32 on their Arizona project, that Hermosa project that they bought, was it 4 years ago for 1.6 million? They just put out a pre-feasibility. They used $1.45.
Right.
So was surprising, and that it was quite a bullish number. But that shows what their expectations are, right? In the next few years, it's not $1.20, $1.30 zinc. It's upwards of $1.40, $1.45.
Right.
And Ayawilca is sensitive to zinc clearly, and we use $1.30. So if we'd used $1.45, we would have added $150 million to the NPV. In fact, our NPV would have been as big as theirs. Right.
Okay. Look, I'll tell you what. Look, why don't we kind of dive into the PEA numbers? If you kind of run through those, because it kind of sets the scene in terms of what's going to be capable in terms of the macro, which we started to talk about with competitions coming from financing, etc. So can you give us the top line numbers?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to refer to this bit of paper that's behind me here, but. So we mined 45 million tons of zinc, 2 million tons of zinc, and 300,000 tons of tin per year. So we added a tin circuit, which is an exciting development for the project. So 45.6 million tons in total, 21-year mine life, NPV post-tax of $434 million, an IRR of 26% post-tax, and a payback period of 2.9 years. So three concentrates, a zinc concentrate which has high indium, which we would expect could get paid in the future. We didn't factor in the indium payment, plus a silver lead con, so a zinc lead silver circuit, and then a tin circuit. And in terms of the commodity mix, the revenue, it's 80% zinc, 11% tin, and 9% silver lead as a revenue mix.
Right. Interesting. So, okay. With regards to, you talk about, it's 21-year life of mine, right? It's big enough. They pay back under 3 years. Great. It's all the things that bankers want to see. Long life and, quick payback. with regards to you then moving through the phases and saying, well, look, let's give some more certainty to the economics, get certainty to the numbers in terms of a PFS, or maybe, I don't know, you go to a phase. I mean, how do you advance things forward on that front? Presumably, you don't need to spend too much money on exploration unless you're hunting, higher grade. I mean, how are you playing the next year?
So the plan is, so of those 45 million tonnes, approximately half of those tonnes were inferred. I think about 20 million tonnes, or 15, 20 million tonnes were inferred. So what we are going to do is we're going to do one more round of infill drilling as part of the pre-feasibility study, to get enough indicated resources to take it through to the pre-feas. So we're targeting, let's say, 30, 35 million tonnes of indicated zinc. We're currently at in the mine plan, I think it's 23 million tonnes. So it's about another 10 million tonnes of zinc, and about 2 or 3 million tonnes of tin. So the tin resource, we've got 1.2 million tonnes of indicated resources and 12 million tonnes of inferred resources. So we've got a very targeted planned infill drill program on one area in the zinc. We call it the east zone. We're going to target the east zone, where drill spacing is very wide. It's low-hanging fruit. There's 7 or 8 million tonnes of high-grade zinc there on the basis of about 7 or 8 holes. So there's some low-hanging fruit in the east area. There's the tin area. There's a structure there that hosts all the high-grade. There's a number of holes there we need to drill to get those resources into indicated. And the third area that's worth just talking about is what we call the silver zone. Now, the silver zone would go into the zinc-lead-silver circuit. It's basically a vein, an epithermal vein that cuts across and through the zinc zone, and we only discovered it fairly late in the piece. It's a small resource at the moment. I think 1.5 million tonnes. We believe we can get 3 or 4 million tonnes, or potential to get 3 or 4 million tonnes of that style of mineralisation into a PFS mine plan, which would increase the silver grade and increase silver recoveries. And silver for a zinc lead project is cream. It's just cream, right? So it just goes straight to the bottom line. So we're very keen to drill those three things: the east zone, the silver zone, and the tin zone, and then just complete the pre-feasibility, which would be a bit more metallurgy, geotech, and so on and so forth.
Right, and timing of that?
Well, next 12 months. Okay. We plan to start drilling second half of the year, early on the second half of the year, and it'll be a 12-month program for a pre-feasibility study.
Okay, interesting. And given your exploration background, I mean, what was the end game for you guys? Is this to like take it through to PFS, GFS? Where are you going with this thing?
So just before I answer that question, we need a pre-feasibility study to then shorten the timeline on the permitting for mine development. You need a pre-feasibility as a kind of a minimum stage project. So we've got to get that done. And then that would shorten the timeline, because we could start permitting, doing the baseline studies, and so on and so forth for an eventual mine development. So there's that side of it. We're looking at purchasing land, surface rights from the local communities. We're beginning to work on that now. My team, we're not a mining team, that's true. We're an exploration team. We have 2 strategic investors, 2 mining companies on our board, Buenaventura and Nexa, both with a lot of local experience, both Peruvian mines. In fact, both of those companies own mining operations within 40 kilometres of our project. They obviously like our project a lot. There's potential for third parties to come in as well. Ultimately, we think that we will get bought out. It's a question of de-risking the project, showing that we can move it forward, and we will do that. De-risking the project and getting it permitted, and we'll take it as far forward as we need to. There's a lot of value to be added on. Just back to the NPV, Matt, $430 odd million conservative prices, and you know what our market cap is? It's
yes, I do.
It's less than
52 million.
It's 0.1 of NAV. So we're so cheap. We really believe there's a lot of value on the table, and the more we can de-risk the project, that will add value. That has to add value.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's also about you guys kind of creating some competitive tension. So, if you're waiting for, Buenaventura or Nexo to kind of rock up, maybe they've got their own time frame, which they do things. So, what do you need to do to make this attractive to mine builders, any mine builders? You kind of, PFS is great in terms of the permitting thing. Do you feel that you need to kind of get this through into DFS and sort of tie it up in a bow for someone to come who's perhaps got bigger access to bigger balance sheet or capital to get this done, or do you offload this since you've done the PFS?
Well, it's a good question. The timing of offloading is a difficult one. You just can't say. Well, I'm not going to say today. We're just going to offload it at the end of the PFS or before the PFS. We'll see how it goes. We know what we've got to do. We've got to move the project forward towards development stage. We're talking to all sorts of people. It's a big wide world out there. Nexo and Buenaventura, they've got their foot in the door, or feet in the door, but we don't see that there's opportunities for others. And we also want to highlight the exploration upside. We do think that there's a lot more potential for even doubling or even trebling the resource, especially actually for the tin, because the tin is wide open at depth. So at some point, we expect to be able to show that. So it's there's some interesting opportunities for us. And I'd also like to mention, Matt, that we've got a copper gold skarn porphyry target relatively recent in the portfolio that we're drill permitting, and that's in a separate subsidiary. So there's opportunities to either spin that out or generate value on the copper gold side as well.
Okay, and you're there at that conference at the moment, and there's obviously a bit of battery metals to it. But investors are asking you what? I mean, do they understand zinc? Do they value zinc? What are they talking to you about?
Yeah, there's questions about zinc. When is zinc going to run? So similar to the questions what you've asked. They ask about Peru, and they ask what's going to be the catalyst. What's going to be the catalyst that moves our stock price? So those are the three things. And
right. Well, you've had a nice little run, since the PA was announced, and obviously the technical filings happen now, so it confirms what you say. But what is the catalyst going to be? You pop from 10 cents to 14 cents in no short order, heading up to your sort of 12-month highs of 18. But what's it going to take to kind of get people interested in this story? I think it's a good question.
Oh, it's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. I think this next round of drilling will, has the opportunity to get people a lot more interested. We'll be targeting the kind of, what's the word? It's a bit sexier than zinc potentially, but also on the move. We'll be targeting the tin, but targeting the silver. So that always has opportunities on the drill side. And we're optimistic that metals prices are going to keep moving upwards. Now, that'll help, right? That'll certainly help. And the zinc price, once people start talking about zinc again, what's the zinc price? $1.30 odd. I just think that these assets are scarce, right? These assets are absolutely scarce, and we are one of maybe two or three others in the world where we have this kind of size and grade of base metal project, and that is eminently developable. So, there's a lot of good things going for this project. So I think there's a number of potential catalysts, maybe not one in particular, that's going to move the stock.
Right. And can you talk to me about the met stuff? Because I think that's interesting. Obviously, the recovery around zinc is going to be important, but also some of these byproducts. You talk about tin, it's 11%, you said, and the silver. How much more work do you think you need to do to kind of feed into the PFS on that, or was there a pretty good understanding of where you're at?
There's a very good understanding of the zinc. It's almost pre-PFS standard now. There's a bit more variability, test work, and so on and so forth. The tin is a separate area. It's a separate zone, and we were able to add it into this updated PEA because of additional metallurgical work that we'd done down in Tasmania, one of the labs down in Tasmania in Australia. we realised that the tin mineralisation at Ayawilca is very similar to the tin at Renison Bell, which is the well-known world class tin deposit down in Tasmania. So we kind of unlocked the metallurgy on the tin. It's cassiterite, which is the tin mineral that you want. It's dense. You use gravity mostly to get good recoveries and separate it out. So that was a big tick. And on the silver, well, the silver is also an interesting one because we want the silver to report to the lead con. That's where you get paid for silver. If you end up with silver going into the zinc con, then you lose the first 3 ounces of silver. And that's it, the refineries don't pay for silver. It's those first 3 ounces that go into the zinc con. So you want the silver into the lead con. Now, to get into the lead con, we actually want to increase the lead grades. And Ayawilca, the lead grades are relatively low. Its average is 0.2, but normally it's either a lot higher or slightly below 0.2. So that's why the silver zone is quite important, because it'll increase the average grade of the lead right across the deposit, and the lead and silver right across the deposit, which will increase the silver recoveries, right? So plus that silver zone has beautiful silver recoveries. It's like we did some metallurgical test work late last year. We're getting 85-90% silver recoveries. So look, there's a bit more work to be done on the tin for PFS. There's more variability tests, and there's a bit more work to be done yet on the silver recoveries. Because in the PEA, we're only assumed 45% payability on the silver, 45% payability. And that's based on the test work that we did. Very conservative number. We believe that payability can and will increase with more test work.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So while you're working on those kind of improved efficiencies and obviously the infill drilling, etc. I guess the other side of the coin is what do we intend to improve the value is going to be, well, what's going to stop this project going forward? And in fact, a fellow CEO living in Lima, called Alex Black, he said to me recently, and he quotes it a lot. The any way these projects advance in South America is social, and social. You need to. I know you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's exploration, but you need to kind of take care of those things. So, just if you don't mind, what are you up to in terms of your social license?
Good question. We're actually not in the middle of nowhere. We're only 150 kilometers from the coast. We're 6 hours drive, 6.5 hours drive to Lima. It's only 200 kilometers straight line down to Lima, and we're right on one of the roads that cuts across the Andes, right on the side, very close to one of the sides, up a mountain, but more or less on the side of one of the roads that cuts across the Andes. That's the first step. Yes, there are communities. We only have literally a handful of community members living at the project itself. So the resettlement is really not a significant issue. Yes, it's community-owned land, and one of the things that we will do, we're targeting to do in the next year or so, year and a half, is buying surface rights from those communities. We spent a heck of a lot of time and investment and investing time and money and for a win-win situation with the local communities. They don't live on top of the project. We're at 4,200 meters. The communities live 4 or 5 kilometers down the mountainside, but we employ them for jobs, for building drill platforms, security, help around the camp, so on and so forth. We've been working with the communities now for 8 or 9 years. We have excellent relationships with the communities. There are 2 communities that we work with. One main one which owns the majority of the land over the deposit, and then a kind of a secondary community that owns only a relatively small part. So we put a lot of work into the social into our social programs, and the vast majority of the communities are in favour of a mine at Ayawilca. We've had consultants go out there, talk to them. The vast majority of them are in favour, and why? Because they get jobs. There's jobs, and it's a better lifestyle, education for the kids and better health for the children and particularly the women. So these are fairly poor areas. It is moderately remote. I wouldn't say in the middle of nowhere. It's actually reasonably remote, but everyone's got a mobile phone. There's good mobile phone coverage. People can get on the internet and go and see the www.tinkaresources.com and see what our latest results were. So it's really, people want to join the modern world. I think, the other part of it is there's actually very good infrastructure to our project. There's a power line, 220 kV power line that runs right over the top of the resource. There's a substation being built 5 kilometres away from the project now, which we've already pre-approval to hook into. There's water around, so it is a greenfield site, but infrastructure-wise, it's actually extremely good. There's plenty of flat land for a mine site development. If people would like to go and have a look at our website, there's nice pictures there of the site and showing to you that just how flat and developable a mine is there. Looking at filtered tailings as well, which is something that's important for the communities. We would de-water the tailings, dry stack the tailings, so it won't be a conventional tailings dam. It will be a dry stack filtered tailings system there. I mean, water is the other big point, Matt. The communities are always concerned about their water, and we're fortunate that our best ore body there, our best resource at south, is actually above the water table. So for the first few years, we won't need to do any dewatering at all because the deposit's above the water table. So look, there's a lot of good things going about the project.
Seems to be. Look, Graham, I appreciate you coming on and talking us through that. I'll let you get back to the conference. Press the flesh, pound the streets, whatever you do at these conferences. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Appreciate it.